Okay, so 73, you'll have something like this on the test where they don't write the equations out for you, but they describe it, okay? So on 73, it says one leg of a right triangle is 1 inch longer than the other leg, okay? Well, we don't know what the other leg is, okay, so we assign that an X, but what they describe in the sentence is what the next one is. So whatever this was, this one's going to be how much more bigger? Plus 1, okay, 1 inch longer, okay? So that's your A, that should be, what is our C? 29, okay? So our equation in this section is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we got to square all of those, okay? So if I squared my A, it's going to be X squared, okay? Then I add, and I'm going to square that one, which really means we're going to write it twice, okay? Because it would look like this, I'm squaring this, which means X plus 1, X plus 1, okay, times in it, okay? And then equals 29 squared, so that was 841, okay? Doing 29 squared. So what do we got to do next? Anybody? What do we got to do to simplify this down? What's going to be our next step? Not yet. Factoring to be once we get everything to the other side. What do we got to do here? That put it together. So we need to distribute or FOIL. So I need to distribute these, right, to know what that is. Okay, so this is coming down because I haven't done anything with this. Okay, X times X would give me X squared. X times 1 gives me 1x, but then when I distribute this one, I get another 1x. So that means I have 2x, and then 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, now what's my next step? Right, so we need to make sure everything is on one side so that our equation is all together so we can start factoring. So we say we always make one side equal to 0. Okay, so to make this 0, I need to get rid of it. Right? What I do to one side, I've got to do to the other side. Okay, I have 2 like terms here, so there's 2 of them. Okay, common mistake yesterday was x to the 4th. That would be you multiply. Okay, and it's not, it's add. Okay, so how many x squareds do you have? You have 2 of them. Okay, there's nothing to combine with that one, so that one stays there. And now subtracting 1 from that would make it 8/4. Okay, practicing factoring, what would be my next step? Take out a common factor. So if you're in algebra, that taking out common factor is part of your answer. We don't need it because it doesn't have the x attached to it. We're trying to solve x. Okay, so the 2 comes out, which again, we won't end up using, okay? But it helps us simplify this down. So if I divide this by 2, that would be x squared. If I divide that by 2, then it's just going to be x. And divide that by 2, which would give me a negative 420. Okay, so now I don't have to worry about that number up front. I can just read backwards. What are my factors of 420? Let's subtract to give me 1. And again, you can use that factor chart that's up at the front. And it ends up being 20 and 21. Because 20 times 21 gives you 420. And you would subtract to get 1. Okay, so my 2 factors are 20 and 21. So we talked about yesterday that there was something that we do with a larger number. I put it behind which sign? But whatever this front one is, right? The positive. So whatever the sign of the second term is, okay? So I'm going to have a positive and a negative. I split up my x's, and I have 20 and 21. So 21 is my larger number, so I put it behind the positive. And then put the other one over there. Okay, so now we can solve for x's because we no longer have x squared. Which one of those numbers am I going to use? 20, right? Because if this is equal to 0, and I solve for x and move this over, it becomes a positive 20, right? If this one was equal to 0, and I solve for x and move this over, it becomes a negative 21. And we don't use negatives when we're solving for sides or tables or stuff, okay? So we're going to use the 20. Okay, and on that question, on 73, it just says how long is the shorter of the legs, which would be your 20. Okay. If it asked for all 3, you'd have 20, 21, and then 29, because I already told you to answer this. But we just need the 20. Okay, others. Okay, so we're good on that. These are going to be on the test, so we'll make sure we've got enough practice with those. Not make sure you're practicing before the test and asking me questions. Okay, so the reteach. Questions on 1 through 7.
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay, so all of these we're using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you got to pay attention on these, like today's worksheet, which one they're looking for. Okay, so on number 3, they gave you a is 5, b is 8, and we don't know what c is. Okay, so I still got to square that. So squaring 5 would make it 25. Squaring 8 would make it 64. Okay, and that gives me c squared. Okay, so I need to combine those two, which gives me 89. Okay, but notice on your line it doesn't ask for c squared, it asks for c. So to get rid of this, the opposite is take square root. Square and square root cancel each other out, it leaves the c, but what I did to this side, I'm also going to do to the other side. Okay, and then 89 does not break down where you can simplify and bring out any pairs. So you just leave it like that. So that's a simplified radical format. Unlike number 5 and number 6, you could actually break those radicals down. Okay, any others on that first page?
Number 7.
7. Okay, you'll see one like this today on the practice worksheet, and I believe in the book assignment as well. Okay, so we have a rectangle field. Okay, and it's 180 feet long, 50 feet wide, and in the question they want the length of the diagonal of the field. Okay, so what shape did I just now create? A right triangle. Okay, so what are we solving for when we're finding the diagonal? What letter? The C. Okay, so you got to square this, right? Square this, and then add those two, and then take the square root to get this one here. Okay, and it ends up being 34,900, I believe. Okay, and that's what your c squared is. So you've got to take the square root of that, and on that question it asked you for the decimal answer, so which most calculators, that's what it gives you. And then that one actually breaks down. Okay, it's 349 times 100, and 100 breaks down into 10 and 10, so there's your pair that comes out. This doesn't break down with any other pairs. Okay, so it ends up being 10 on the outside and 349 on the inside. Is your radical one. And then your decimal one was 186.8. So you have both of them. Okay, next page. Questions on 8 through 16. 8 through 16. Maybe on 8 through 16. Yeah. 12. Okay, so this applies, and it'll be on the test. So 12, 14, and 15 all have radicals within what you're squaring. Okay, so this is going to apply to all of them. So looking at number 12, we square our first number, right? So when we square that number, it really looks like that, right? We just know it's 49. Most of us don't write it out. Okay, so same thing with the next one. We're going to square that one, which would be the same thing, which is 49. Okay, the third one, which is your C, is 7 rad 2. So just like what you did here, you're going to go 7 rad 2 times 7 rad 2. Right? And what you do is whole number with whole number, you're going to multiply. So 7 times 7 would be 49. And then you combine the radicals, multiply as well. So rad 2 times rad 2 would be rad 4. What do we know about rad 4? Is a perfect square, which is what? 2. So this takes you back to your math minutes that we've been doing. So if there's already something out here and I'm taking something out, what do we do with those numbers? Times them. Okay, so I'm taking a 2 out, right? Because that's a perfect square. So came out, so I multiply 49 times 2, which would be 98. Okay, so does this side equal that side? Yeah. So it makes it a yes. So same thing on 14, where you've got 2 rad 15 and multiplying 2 rad 15. Okay, so 2 times 2 would be 4. And then underneath the radical, you could put those together if you wanted to, but what do you notice about when you're putting them together? They're a what? They're just remember, just only take one of them out, okay, to get that. So in all of those, that's just the pattern, just like the 2 times 2 was, because you took the 2 out. So if we're looking at number 15, I go 9 times 9 times what? If you're looking at 15. 9 times 9 times 3, because it was a square root of 9, right? And square root of 9 is 3. Okay, those are on the test, so you know how it goes. Okay, 17 through 25, and you said 25? Okay. And mine is smudged. What is that second number?
40.
40? Okay. Okay, so we have A, we have our B, and it's 48. Yeah, okay. Okay, so there's my A, there's my B, there's my C. So we need to square this one, add the 2 together, right? And then we also need to square this one. So if it's equal, it's going to be a right triangle. If the C is smaller, then it's going to be acute. And if the C is bigger, then it's going to be obtuse. Okay, so squaring 30, that gave me 900. Squaring that gives me 1600. So when I add those 2 together, I get the square of 48. So 48 times 48 gives me 2304. Okay, so when I add those 2 together, is this number bigger or smaller? Because it's obviously not equal. It was what? The C was smaller. Okay, it was smaller than what those 2 were added together. Because 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 2500. So it makes it acute. Okay, any others? Okay, so passing forward is just the reteach. The reteach has your name on it and the 2 scores on it. You are keeping your notes so that you have that together with your paper. Okay.